all of my jars of canned chicken and canned chicken stock. They're out here on the counter because I just finished washing them. When I can over an open fire, a lot of my jars get a little bit of a film on them. And so what I do after they are cooled and the lids have popped, this has been a couple days now, and I pulled all my jars out and I'm washing them just to get that sticky kind of film off. And from what I understand, it's just because I'm canning over the open fire and a little bit of ash gets in my water before I close up my canner. So when I pull them out, they just have a little film on them. So I wash them and I'm getting ready to store them in my pantry. Now, I've never canned chicken or canned chicken stock before. I actually got my instructions from a website called simplycanning.com, and it's a website that I think is really good for beginners. It's been really good for me to get information, and I love the way that she does it, and she's very, very simple and lays out the instructions very clearly. So what I decided to do was can my chicken with the bone in. And the reason I did that is because I didn't want to have to cook my chicken first. If you want to can just the chicken, you'll have to cook the chicken first, take the chicken off the bones, and then put them in your jars, and then put them in your pressure canner. Well, this way, we cut up the chicken and we put them in the jars with the bone in, completely raw. So if you look at this jar, you'll see that it's full of chicken drumsticks with the bone in. So what I decided to do was use my tall quart wide mouth jars for my drumsticks, and there's, I think, probably 6 drumsticks in here. Some are up and some are down. We did that to fill the jars completely. And I packed them with about 1-inch headspace. And then this one, I have mostly chicken thighs, a little bit of chunk pieces that didn't fit in my other jars. And let's see, these are actually the chicken breasts and tenderloins without bone. They're easy to take off the bone when they're raw. So we canned all of the chicken breasts in these jars because they were easy to mash down. And I love just the regular mouth pint jars because they fit really well in my canner, and I can fit a lot more of these than I can these because they take up less room. Okay, so once I got all of my meat in the jars, I put a little bit of boiling water in the top and kind of mushed it around so that all the air bubbles came out. I wanted to do that, although it's not required. You can completely can your meat without any water and it creates its own juice. But I decided that I really love the chicken stock, and I made extra chicken stock, of course, but I really love opening a can of chicken and having some extra juice. So that's why I decided to put boiling water in. So once I did that, I mushed it around, got all my air bubbles out, and then put the lids on, and then they went directly into the canner. So I canned all of my chicken together for an hour and a half. And the instructions for pints, I think, is an hour and 15 minutes. And the instructions for quarts is an hour and 30 minutes. I put them all in together because I have a really big canner. And when I put them all in together, I just decided to go ahead and do the longer time for everything. That way everything was done together. And then after that, I pulled all my jars out, and I had my bones, like the breast bones and any, like the neck, anything that I wasn't canning for chicken in my jars. I put them in stock pots with some water, and I boiled them over the open fire while I was canning the chicken. And so when that was done, I did that for about an hour, and when that was done, I pulled that out, and I had the beginnings of my chicken stock. And I pulled any extra meat off the bone, and then we had that for dinner that night. But once I had gotten most of the meat off the bone and my jars were done, I put all of my stock and my bones back into my canner, and I did that for another hour. So I pressured that for another hour. And that is what made this delicious looking stock. And you can see I have a little bit of chicken pieces in the bottom. But what I did was I pulled everything out of the canner after an hour, and I strained my stock through a colander. And I guess some people don't like the little chicken pieces in their stock, and so you can put them through a mesh strainer if you don't like that. But I love the chicken pieces, so I put it through a colander. If you look at this jar, you'll see a little chicken fat layer on top of my broth. And a lot of people will want to skim off that to maybe make their stock fat-free, but I'm not into that. I love having a little fat in my stock. I think it adds wonderful flavor and wonderful nutrition too. We're not trying to eat fat-free here. We're just trying to eat healthy and organic and produce as much of our own food as possible, and we think that that is what is making us healthy and not necessarily eating fat-free. But if you want to make your own stock and you want to make it fat-free, you can skim off the extra fat before you put it in your jars. Let's see, so after I made my stock and I put it through the colander, pulled out all of my bones, then I put them in the jars. And I chose this size jar. I could have, if I had had more quart jars, I probably would have used these. But this is what I had, so I decided to do the pints. And then after I got my lids on, I put them back in the pressure canner for 20 minutes. And so they pressured for 20 minutes, the pint stock jars. So all told, this was an all-day project. It literally took me from, 9 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night, I think we were finally done. It was a pretty good day. It was a lot of work, but you can see how many jars I have from all of that work. We did 10 chickens, and I did not do with the chicken wings. We have the chicken wings that we're saving for dinner tonight. We're gonna barbecue those. So from 10 chickens, I have 4 quarts of drumsticks. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pints of thighs and other pieces, and then the rest I have the chicken breast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 chicken breasts. And then the rest of these are stock. These are, I think, 31 we counted pints of stock. And if you're like me, I love soup in the winter. I love making soup, and I will just be able to open my own chicken stock jars and throw all my ingredients in. And what I love doing in the winter is cooking my soup on top of our wood stove. So I'll throw all my ingredients in and simmer it over the wood stove, and then we'll have dinner. And we have lots of potatoes stored up, and I'll be able to open my chicken stock and throw in some onions and garlic and whatever else I have, rice or pasta or whatever else I'll have. That's the way I make soup in the winter, and I love soup. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and see you next time on the Homestead.
If you enjoyed this video, please click the thumbs up button below the video. It really makes creating these videos worthwhile. If you want to make sure to never miss a new video, be sure to click the subscribe button. Now you can get your homesteading questions answered. Visit us at our contact page on anamericanhomestead.com and send us your questions. Maybe we'll pick your question for a future video or article on our website.